Hey guys, JB here from Alpha Wolf Consulting, and welcome to the next session in the Alpha Wolf Personal Development and Expansion series. So, today's episode or today's talk is going to be based off one of the concepts covered yesterday. This idea that in anything in life, when we are trying to flow with the energy of life, it is the identity of self, the self or the ego, that is the point of resistance. So when we are trying to flow through our life, through the different environments, situations, circumstances that we go through in life, it's understanding this flow state and how we can become the impediment to our ability to connect or resonate with that flow state or with that frequency. So, an important thing to understand is that if I feel resistance in life, it is me that is resisting aspects of myself in this life. So we understand that in anything that I'm doing, if I'm feeling resistance, it's because there's a psychological construct or a part of me that is resisting my embrace of it. So if I was learning and trying to learn something new and I found resistance, it's difficult to learn, it's difficult to understand. That's because the ego is holding on to the aspect of needing to know, of needing validation, of not being able to look like a fool. So we understand that it is us or an aspect of us or a part of us that is holding us back from being able to embrace and adapt and overcome. So you can look at this in your own life and think about times where, you maybe found it difficult to learn a subject or a topic, and other times where you found it easy to learn. And a funny thing you'll notice is one, it's environmental stimuli. Sometimes we feel more comfortable in certain environments, other times we don't. So it's in understanding this comfort level and how it allows us to let go to that ego. When we find and when we notice that we are getting better performance by not having an ego than we do by having an ego, it becomes easier for us to let go to the need of the control of the ego. So, like, how does this manifest, or how do we see this in life? It can be like trying to look good while you're trying to learn and comprehend something. So that need to not look like an idiot when I'm doing something I've never done before. Why wouldn't I look like an idiot? Do you sort of get it? Like it's in understanding and letting go to that need to hold on. So we understand that in anything in life, if it's love, if it's career, if it's finance, if it's personal growth, if it's personal learning, like when we feel resistance, it's not external resistance being put on us. It's internal resistance of us not being ready to either step forward or let go to what was. So we understand this in the context of if you've ever been someone who's worked out a lot, we go through a stage where we're training every day and we're quite competent and capable and very able to, push ourselves. And then we take a 6 month break and try and go back to it. It's that ego of, oh, I should be further along than I am. It's that ego of, I feel like a bitch. It's that ego of, I feel like I'm not doing it to where it should be done because we're comparing. So we understand the ego in the sense that the ego compares. So when I find myself comparing where I should be, how it should be that you know, the actions I should take, the path I should follow, when I'm comparing, just know I'm in the ego. So when we understand this, it's sort of like, but how do I move forward in that flow state? How do I, so to speak, step out of my own way? And it's in the embracement of the not needing to know. I don't need to know the next words that come out of my mouth to be able to speak, to be able to speak coherently, to be able to speak competently, capably. Like it's in understanding in the doing and just naturally doing how it feels right without need of control, without need of thought, so to speak. I am connecting in with that um, like flow state, that energy of my life force, my energy force, like how I am meant to, or the path I am meant to follow in life. So when I stop needing to dictate the flow of my life and I just start dictating how I show up, who I am, like I start dictating the internal, how I feel while I'm walking the path, regardless of if the path is full of thorns or regardless if the path is soft sand. I can walk through both of those feeling pleasant and blissful. So we understand that we're taking control from trying to control the external environment to now trying to control the internal environment. I can't control if people like me, but I can control if I like who I am. Does that make sense? So, like, I can control if the person who I am, the actions, the thoughts, the words, the emotions, the beliefs that I hold, if that is someone I like. I don't know if other people will like it, but I know I like it. Do you sort of understand? We're taking control into where control can be managed. And we're learning how to validate that sense or that understanding that if I feel resistance, then it is me in the way. And we step out of the way, so to speak, by letting go to the need to control. So if we thought about this in the context of, you know, being in social settings or new social settings, and it's sort of like I have social anxiety because I don't know if people like me. When I'm sitting there and I'm trying to talk to people, but I'm always worried about if they like me, if what I'm saying is right, if, if I'm, you know, making a good impression, if I'm always worrying about that, I'm sitting there and I'm saying, I can't do this, I can't be this way. Like I'm limiting the way in which I can connect and engage with someone rather than just connecting and engaging with them. So we understand when I take it from the external environment of things I say and how other people take what I say, and then I focus in on controlling, do I talk authentically about things that mean something to me? Do I speak in a way that I want, to be perceived? If I want to be perceived as a nice, kind person, then I speak in a nice, kind tone. It doesn't mean that I'm limited to that nice, kind tone. It just means like that is something I can be aware of. I can be aware of how, so to speak, like my tonal shifts, how the language influences me and how I feel about it. And then I speak outwardly that way. So I'm not trying to structure my language for how someone else is going to perceive it. I'm structuring my language how I perceive it to be like the best or the most pleasant or the correct way that I want to present myself. So do you sort of see how it's sort of like we're not, so to speak, worrying about the external environment because the internal environment dictates the external environment. So if I'm speaking kindly to myself, using kind language and kind tones, and then I'm speaking outwardly the same way, and people are reacting negatively to me, it doesn't really matter. Like, if I'm in alignment with how I feel, how I hear kindness to sound, if I'm in alignment with the values that I want to present, if I'm in alignment with, my beliefs, my thoughts, my emotions, then what happens is, even if I get negative feedback from the environment, I can ignore that negative feedback, because to change the internal from the external is an impossible feat. So for me to alter my internal states of being, or my frequency, by trying to manipulate my external environment is not real. It's an illusion. So I'm trying to structure and curate my external environment so that I get a feedback to feel a certain way. Do you know what I mean? So I'm trying to connect all the dots so that the picture says I can be happy, so that the picture says I can be this way. So we understand that it's an impossible feat, because if I'm trying to do or be someone that isn't in alignment with my direct environment, or is something where it confronts other people, so to speak. So, like, for example, if I'm not talking about, the latest TV shows, if I'm not talking about, all the bullshit that's happening in society, like, if I'm not talking about going out getting pissed on the weekend, 80% of people in the environment I can't talk to get information back, to get data back, to make decision making. Because the majority of people avoid this aspect of life to the point of just entrenching in the physical, in the material. So we just understand that, like, it's only ever me that can get in my way, or that can give resistance. The environment doesn't give me resistance. It's internal to me that the resistance is created. So it's only through understanding the internal and making alteration shifts and changes on the internal that we can effect external change. So from within, we create change without what outside of us. And it's very important to understand this, because essentially how our resistance that we put up to anything that we are trying to become and achieve and be in life will come from two places: self-doubt and self-limiting beliefs. So they are both very, very similar, but slightly different to the point where we separate them. So self-doubt is something that we will never avoid in life. Self-doubt is something that will always be with us, because it's created from internal to us. A self-limiting belief is something that is gifted to us and given to us by those around us who love us, who hate us. Do you understand? A self-limiting belief is something external that is impressed on us. Self-doubt is those moments and aspects where we feel like we're not good enough, like where we feel like this may not work. And this is where we create the resistance out of self-doubt. Because, for example, if I'm walking across the street, I might get self-doubt that, hey, I might get hit by a car. Like my external environment, there may be no other cars on the street, but I might get that urge to look over and make sure a car's not about to hit me. Like, it's natural responses where fears or doubts about our course of action or our decision come into play. But now, if we take that exact same sort of scenario, we can argue that that is based on conditioned responses of always looking when you're crossing a road. Like self-doubt isn't negative if we don't fuel it. So, like, if every time I walk across that road and I get a feeling to look for a car, if I fuel that feeling with fear and play what would happen if a car hit me, how would that feel? All of this, if I'm amplifying it, I'm creating a negative aspect within it. So the self-doubt is just a doubt of my safety. It's a doubt of, my decision, the course of action. So it's like someone sort of we're walking in a group and we're lost and we're trying to figure out which direction to go in. If we don't figure out a direction, if we go in 7 different directions, like the likelihood is we're going to die. So it's statistically better for us to pick a direction and just go in it. And if we die, we die. So if every time we've come to a decision on a direction that we want to go on, and someone says, "Oh, I don't think that's the right way. I think that's the right way." And then we stop our decision making and start considering that other way. Do you sort of see it? That it's not negative for someone to give us another option, but if every time we're about to make a decision or we have made a decision, we start considering other options. So if you think about self-doubt and goal achievement, self-doubt is, oh, maybe you can't do this. And an important thing to understand is that, like, if we agree with it and start considering that maybe I can't do this, like, we're sort of stopping our decision making and momentum forward and then sort of going there and sort of considering taking a different route. We're just going to keep going around in circles to where we've almost made a decision or we've just started walking and we're going back to just make sure we're going the right way. Do you sort of get it? Like, it's not like a negative thing in terms of if I fuel it to be negative, it can be negative. If I acknowledge it and say, but I've made the decision to go this way, we've made the decision to walk this way. Like when we make a decision, it's not, I'm going to walk this way because it's the safest way. Because then we're always going to be looking for safer ways to walk. And many would and many could argue that that is a more effective way if we're always looking for the safer way. But at a certain point in time, if we're constantly altering or changing our decisions and our actions based on our decisions, the downside is it like Chinese whispers, every time we make iterations and changes, we are morphing it to be something that it's not. So when we think about the flow of life, the energy of achieving what we want in life and trying to connect with that and use that natural flow of the river, so to speak, every time I'm trying to change and decide, oh, should I go over there? Should I go over there? Should I try that river over there? Should I try that river over there? Like every time I'm changing, I'm altering my frequency. So, like, we just understand when I'm trying to resonate and connect with things, at a certain point in time, I have to become solid to the point where this is the path. I don't need to know every step of the path, but this is just the path I walk. And when we're understanding the natural flow states of life and this aspect of like not resisting the movements of life, is that we don't have to know. If this path leads to my success, if it leads to my demise, it doesn't really matter. Like the destination isn't what we seek, even though many of us only set off on the path because we want the destination. And that's the funny thing. Like the destination of life is death. Do you want to die? Like, do you sort of get it? The destination's not the point, because if the destination's the point, then you may as well go die. Do you sort of get it? Like you may as well skip through your entire life and then die so that you can have that sense of achievement. Do you sort of get it? So in anything in life that we are doing, trying to achieve, trying to become, the destination is never the result. If I lose the weight, if I don't lose the weight, it doesn't really matter. If I lose the weight, but I haven't built the character, do you know what I mean? Like if I want to lose weight, why wouldn't I just go get surgery to lose weight? Why go exercise and diet? Because it's the journey and the information and the understanding that we get along the way that is like what is valuable. The outcome is not valuable. Do you know what I mean? If money in a decision, the outcome of money is what I'm looking to achieve in every decision that I get. As soon as I spend that money, I have lost that achievement. Do you sort of get it? Like the money's not the goal, because if the money becomes the goal, then what happens is if I spend that, I am spending my value, my achievement, my worth. Do you sort of get it? So then I have to put that worth into the thing that I'm buying so that I may feel good. Do you understand? So we just understand that it's not the outcome, it's the journey and the process and the feeling while you're doing it. The point of life is the experience you have every day. So, like, if we're sitting there saying that all my attention and focus has to be on the outcome, we are pulling ourselves out of the flow of life, because the flow of life is just the movement of life. So, like, it's the movement of the the goal of the achievement of who I want to be. Who I want to be is not someone that is stagnant. It is someone that is in flow, moving, developing, growing every day. Do you sort of understand? So, no matter what happens in life, in whatever you're doing, just realize it is never the external environment. Even if someone walks up and punches you in the face, there was an aspect of you that wanted to punch you in the face. Do you sort of get it? Like it's not about the situations or the external environment or the outcomes. It's about the process leading up to those. It's about the journey of becoming, the journey of finding, the journey of success. So, like, to put this in perspective, do you know what I mean? Like, within my own self, like trying to use this information and knowledge to understand how I was restricting myself. Like when I think about success, like we all do this. So whatever I think about, when I think about success, it's tied to visual stimuli or experiential stimuli. So like it'll be thinking about a person who we view as being successful. That's how we conceptualize and view success. Or it might be a feeling we've seen someone have. Do you sort of understand? So when I was conceptualizing success, it was always that these people like Warren Buffett, like Elon Musk, like they had this comfort of knowing they were where they needed to be, of knowing, that relax, that every day I'm moving towards my goal. So we understand that like what I'm doing is I'm putting on this artificial barrier to me being allowed to feel successful, is that I have to feel that every day I'm moving towards what I want in life, or that I'm in the place where I want to be. But I've never seen that place. I've never felt it. I've never been there. Do you understand? So I'm trying to conceptualize and put a conceptual framework to how something has to be that I have no comprehension of. And this is the understanding of Zen and Tao, of being in the flow with life, is that if I want to go where I've never been before, there is no roadmap. So if I'm trying to set artificial constructions around how something has to be and how it should be and what it should be, what I'm doing is I'm trying to paint a picture of something I cannot describe. So I'm using frameworks of, for example, let's say I'm trying to paint a mountain and I'm using the framework of a building to draw a mountain. Do you understand? Like I'm drawing a building and then trying to make it look like a mountain. Like, does this make sense? So when I create these frameworks of how things have to be, I am then in my own way because I'm telling myself that this isn't what it is in terms of I don't feel successful because I don't feel like I'm in the place I need to be. Do you sort of understand? I don't feel that sense of peace and comfort with what I'm doing. So we understand that I'm trying to paint over that building and sort of mold that building after I've drawn it into a mountain. And don't get me wrong, like there are many good painters in this world. Do you sort of get it? Like a lot of people mold their dreams, what they want in life over the building and pretend like it's a mountain. Do you know what I mean? So what we're trying to do is let go to the need to have a scale or frame or an understanding and to just start drawing the lines. So it's in the motion of doing what I want to do that I create the frameworks of how it should be, of how it makes me feel. When we try to do it beforehand, we realize that we are the ones creating the resistance in our own life. So if I create the resistance of, I have to feel happy before I'm allowed to be happy. Like, what makes me feel happy? How do I feel happy? Like I have no control over if or not I feel happy. It's sort of a result because I'm waiting for the external environment to make me feel happy. Like if it's just that I can choose to be happy and then I feel happy as a byproduct, do you sort of get it? Like we have to take everything that we put external and bring it into the internal. We have to let go to the external of that need to know, that need to have a plan, that need to have a path, so to speak. And we have to just do and flow with it without the need. So it's sort of like a conversation. Let's say we're having a conversation and I'm sitting here thinking about everything I'm going to say. I'm thinking through and I'm trying to have the most, the perfect conversation. And I'm sitting here and I'm sitting there thinking and thinking. And then I ask you a question and I'm thinking about what I'm going to say. I'm thinking about what I'm going to say. And then I say what I'm going to say. And then I ask you another question. I'm thinking about what I want to say. I'm thinking about what I want to say. That conversation isn't able to flow because I'm pulling from it. I'm resisting it. I'm holding on to the need to control the flow. So if I think it's getting out of control, I pull it back. If I feel like it's getting slow, I push it forward. When we understand that the natural flow of the conversation is an exchange of energy. So when we look at it as an exchange of energy, what we are doing is we are not looking at what can I do? We're listening and we're sort of trying to feel or interpret the energy and then sort of go back. Do you sort of understand? It's like a tennis match. Like I serve to you, you hit back to me, I hit back to you. Do you know what I mean? If I'm sitting there trying to determine where that ball is going to hit in your court, and then where it's going to hit back from me, and then where it's going to hit in yours, and then where it's going to hit back from me. Like, life doesn't work that way. So we find ourselves on the opposite end or the outside of the action that we're taking, not understanding how to connect with it. So we just understand, like in the conversation, if I just allow it to flow without need to control, without need to think about what I'm going to say, and I just say what I want to say, it'll naturally find a rhythm and a flow. And this is all we're trying to do in life, is we're trying to lose the need to think in context of the need to determine every step, to micromanage how we do things. And we just focus on doing it how it feels best to us. So, like, for example, if we were going to sing a song, are we going to sing a song like shit, or are we going to try and sing a song to the best of our abilities? And maybe we find that our tone and our pitch isn't quite right. So we start molding it and working on it, and working on understanding the frequency and the tonal changes and things like this. Like, do you sort of understand? Like, we're not trying to control it. We're just responding and flowing with it and moving with it. So when we understand this, if I'm in the conversation to hear what you have to say, to interpret what you say, and then to answer or respond back to you in the most congruent way, or the way that I feel is the right way to do it, you know what I mean? Like, it's going to flow a lot more. So, like, for example, with what I talk about, with the content that I do, with my day-to-day schedule. Like, I don't have a set routine, so to speak. I have goals and milestones that I achieve. And then it's sort of how I achieve them is up to the mystery. What I achieve is up to the mystery. I don't need to know what I'm going to speak about each day before the day comes, because it's connecting in with the energy of how I feel and what I feel is important and what I feel like I'm called to talk about. So we understand that it's just in this flow of moving, but sort of not trying to swim down river, but wading down river. We can swim down river if we want, but we're using up energy. We may as well wade down river. We're going to get there anyway. Do you sort of understand? Like, we're not trying to artificially change or alter the flow of the energy. We are just working with the energy. And we understand that the way in which, if we ever did want to change the flow of energy or control the flow of energy, is only within us. So through me raising my energy, through me becoming more excited, through me amping myself up, like I'm changing my energetic frequency and resonating with a higher frequency. Does that make sense? So, like, it's not that, like, I'm trying to curate and structure a completely new frequency. That frequency exists. It's just, what am I tapping into? Am I tapping into a negative low frequency where I feel like, oh, I'm lethargic, I don't feel good, like, I don't really feel it today? Or am I in a high energy where I'm really excited and passionate and ambitious about it? Like, do you sort of get it? Like, I don't have to know, like, what frequency I have to be in. If I wake up in the morning and I feel low in my energy, then I just do things to raise it. Do you sort of get it? Like, it doesn't have to be structured out. It's not that, like I have to feel a certain way every day. It's that we're responding to, this is how I feel today. Let's boost it. Or maybe we bring it down, or maybe, you know, because that's it. We're just getting into that energy state or energy flow of really understanding the internal and how the internal reflects the external environment. So if I'm feeling high energy, I'm going to connect at a high energy with other people. If I'm feeling high energy, I'm going to put a lot more effort in. So it's sort of like we're understanding that we're doing or taking different actions or a different flow in our day, in our life, in our week when we connect with different energies. And when I try to control and say, this is how the path has to be, I better be going to somewhere I've been before because I don't know. And that's how we get lost in the bush walking out because we said we had to walk north and the path went slightly east. Do you know what I mean? And we just decided to keep walking north and now we don't know where we are. Does that sort of make sense? Like, if we're too rigid in the structure of how our life needs to look, of how our life needs to, so to speak, feel, how we need to feel in every moment. Do you know what I mean? Like, yes, we dictate how our life should feel. How do I want to feel every day? But I'm not dictating that it has to look a certain way. It has to come about a certain way. Like a lot of people with personal development and things like this and motivation, like they think of motivation as if I'm a highly motivated person, I should wake up every day feeling highly motivated. And the funny thing is that if I'm a highly motivated person, when I wake up and I feel less motivated, naturally I become more motivated. Do you sort of get it? Like if I'm a highly motivated person, it means my baseline of motivation in my day is usually quite high. So if I wake up and it's low, naturally I will rise, it will raise because most highly motivated people in life enjoy the feeling of being motivated, so they understand the actions that make them feel motivated. So, like in anything you're doing in life, in anything you're trying to achieve, become, or have, like if you want to be a more motivated person, it's not that I naturally feel more motivated. It's that naturally, when I'm unmotivated, my intention or instinct is to become motivated. I don't enjoy the feeling of being unmotivated. It makes me feel depressed. So when I feel unmotivated, I course correct my day to motivate myself. I take actions that make me feel more motivated within myself. Does this make sense? So if I'm creating these structures where for me to feel good about who I am, I have to feel motivated every day. Do you sort of get it? Like we change that to like when I don't feel motivated, I have to motivate myself. And when we understand this, we're taking the control back. Because when I have to feel motivated every day, what happens if I don't? What do I do now? I was meant to feel motivated, but I didn't. So we understand this is how self-doubt works. Self-doubt and getting in our own way are linked because it's our self-doubt that says, if I felt motivated every day, then I would feel good about what I'm doing. Do you know what I mean? If I did this, if I did that, like, so it's all linked and it happens on different layers. In terms of self-doubt can be negative self-talk, or self-doubt can be our limiting beliefs of how we think it should be, of our inability to connect and flow with life, can be self-doubt. If I'm afraid to let go of the branch and let the current of the river take me, is this not self-doubt? How do I know I'm not going to be safe? How do I know the river isn't going to take me to a calmer place? Do you know what I mean? So there's a certain level where we've just got to let go and believe. So if you believe that your internal state is a reflection of your external environment, and by contrast, your external environment is a reflection of your internal state. They are just a mirror. Do you sort of get it? We're just like, who knows what the real sort of reflection is? Do you know what I mean? Like, who knows if I'm the real version or if the mirrored version is the real version? So, who knows if my internal state influences the external environment? Who knows if the external environment influences my internal state? But there's a direct link and they mirror one another. So we can see that if I'm happy, my environment seems happier. If I'm pissed off, everything in my environment pisses me off. Do you sort of get it? Like, who knows which is the more dominant one in terms of it doesn't matter if I'm the reflection or if, you know, the person looking back at me in the mirror is the reflection. It doesn't really matter because it's all an illusion. So whatever I believe as being true, if I believe I am the real person and that is the reflection looking back at me, then I am. My reality is created that way. So we understand this as if I want to be happy within myself, okay, who knows if me being happy within myself is really making me more happy, or if other people in my environment making me happy makes me really happy. Like, who knows which one's real? But if I feel happy within myself, am I not happy? If other people make me happy, am I not happy? It doesn't really matter. So we're just taking whatever we want control into. Our only control is on the internal. So it doesn't really matter if, you know, if me changing how I view happiness to be that if I feel unhappy, I'm just make myself happy. If that makes me happier or not in life, who knows? Who cares? It doesn't matter. But once I get out of my own way and I just choose to be happier and feel happier and accept I'm happier, now I'm in the flow with the energy of happiness. I'm on a different frequency. Like, who really cares how it's meant to be? If you get the results, it doesn't really matter how you get the results, so to speak. If telling myself I'm happy, even when someone spits in my face, makes me feel happier, then I'm happier. It doesn't really matter that someone spat in my face. Does this make sense? So it's sort of like telling myself I'm successful because I take the actions that make me feel successful. Like, if those actions get results, if they don't get results, it doesn't really matter. If I've told myself that these are the actions that make me feel successful, I am successful if I take them. I have succeeded. So, in understanding this, we just understand that in any moment, I can choose to flow and let go to the branch in the river, or I can choose to hold on to it and say, only if my external environment says this, this, and this, only if I get the results do I feel successful. And we hold and we hold and we hold, never letting go, enjoying the temperature of the water. Do you sort of get it? Like, if I'm in a very tense part of the river, a very tense part of life, and I'm holding on to how it should be, how it has to be. Like, I'm just prolonging how long I'm in there. If I just let go, I can enjoy the flow. And maybe I'll get somewhere calmer. Maybe I'll get somewhere even more extreme than where I just came from. But it doesn't really matter because if I spend enough time flowing downstream, eventually I'll find somewhere I enjoy. If I spend enough time doing what makes me feel successful, eventually I will become successful by all measures. It doesn't really matter if the results come, if they don't come. If I spend 10 years doing the same thing, like I will become a master at that thing. And the easiest way to understand this is to look into the Shaolin monks and how they do their iron training, their iron fist, their iron foot, their iron whatever. Like they sit there and they punch a tree for 10 years. They punch rocks for 10 years. And what happens? After 10 years, they just stop feeling anything that they punch. Is their fist changed to iron? Who knows? But I bet you if they punch into iron, they won't notice it. Do you sort of get it? Like they've already got the result that they want. Does it really matter if someone believes that they have achieved it or not? All right. Well, I hope you enjoyed this one, and I'll talk to you on the next one. Thanks so much. Bye.